Before we start, take a moment to like and subscribe. Have you ever wondered what kind of spooky, silly, or just plain strange creatures people in the Middle Ages imagined? Back then, when there were no TVs or computers, people loved to tell stories about faraway lands and the magical beasts that lived there. They believed in all kinds of amazing monsters, from brave dragons to silly goblins. Let's take a peek into their fantastical world and meet some of these legendary friends. When you think of a medieval monster, you probably think of a dragon. Dragons were the superstars of the monster world. They were huge, scaly reptiles with enormous bat-like wings and long, swishy tails. What made them truly special was their fiery breath. Some stories said they could breathe fire hot enough to melt a knight's armor. Dragons were thought to smell like smoke and sulfur, which is kind of like a rotten egg smell, but with a hint of burnt wood. But not all dragons were mean. Some were wise and guarded great treasures like mountains of gold coins and shiny jewels. These treasures weren't just for being rich. They were a symbol of the dragon's power and age. A dragon's life was thought to be hundreds, maybe even thousands of years long. They often made their homes in deep caves or on top of mountains, where they could watch over the land and take a nice long nap on their shiny beds of gold. Not all medieval creatures were scary. One of the most beautiful and mysterious was the unicorn. A unicorn looked a lot like a horse, but it was pure white and had a long spiraled horn right on its forehead. They were a symbol of goodness, magic, and purity. People believed their horns had incredible powers, like being able to heal sickness and make poisoned water safe to drink. People said that just one drop of water from their horn could cure a whole village. In stories, unicorns were very shy and could only be tamed by a pure-hearted person. Because of this, they were hard to find and even harder to catch. They were often shown in beautiful tapestries, which are like big woven pictures, in castles and noble homes. The unicorn reminds us that the medieval world wasn't just full of scary things, but also a lot of magic and wonder. Imagine a creature with the head and wings of a majestic eagle and the body of a strong, roaring lion. That's a griffin. It was a very powerful creature, known for its fierce courage and pride. Griffins were believed to live far away in the mountains, where they would stand guard over big treasures. With their sharp eagle eyes and powerful lion paws, nothing could get past a griffin. They were said to hunt both on the ground and in the air, making them the kings of two worlds. Like the dragons, griffins weren't always bad. They were seen as noble and proud guardians. People thought they were a symbol of strength and were often shown on coats of arms and in the fancy stained glass windows of castles. A griffin was a protector, not a monster to be feared, unless you were a bad guy trying to steal its gold. It was said that they even built their nests out of gold to keep their young safe and happy. If you thought dragons were the scariest, wait until you hear about the basilisk. This was a small but super dangerous creature. It was said to have the head and body of a chicken with a crown on its head, but with a snake's tail. Yikes. The basilisk was so terrifying because it didn't even need to touch you to be dangerous. It was believed to have a deadly gaze that could turn anyone to stone. Stories said that the basilisk was born from a rooster's egg that was hatched by a snake or a toad. That's a silly and strange idea, right? The only way to defeat a basilisk was to make it see its own reflection. It would be so surprised by how scary it looked that it would turn itself to stone. It was also believed that weasels were the only animals immune to the basilisk's deadly gaze, so sometimes they were a secret weapon against the beast. A wyvern is a type of dragon, but it has a few special differences. The main one is that a wyvern only has 2 legs, while a dragon has 4. Wyverns also have big bat-like wings that they use as their front limbs to get around. They are often shown with a poisonous stinger at the end of their tail, which was even more dangerous than their fiery breath. Their poison was so powerful, it was said to melt stone. Just like dragons, wyverns were powerful symbols, often appearing on flags and family crests. They were a sign of might and courage, but also a reminder of the dangers that lurked in the wild. People would put a wyvern on their flag to show they were strong and a little bit scary to their enemies. Goblins were the funny little troublemakers of the medieval monster world. They weren't big and scary like dragons, but they were very sneaky and loved to play tricks. A goblin was a small, ugly creature with pointy ears and a big, grumpy nose. They loved to live in dark caves or deep inside mountains where they could be close to things to steal and mess with. They often lived in large groups called tribes and had their own goofy language. Goblins loved to steal things and hide them, making people very confused. They would mess up the kitchen, tangle a knight's armor, or swap the sugar for salt. They were more of a nuisance than a true danger, but you never knew when a mischievous goblin might be nearby, ready to cause some chaos. People said the best way to get on a goblin's good side was to leave out a small treat like a piece of cheese or a shiny button. What do you get when you combine a horse and a griffin? You get a hippogriff. This amazing creature had the head and front legs of a griffin, so an eagle, and the body and back legs of a horse. It was said to be a very fast and noble creature, and it was a symbol of love and impossible things coming together. They were born from a very special kind of egg laid by a griffin. Stories about the hippogriff are a great reminder that people in the Middle Ages loved to use their imaginations and mix different animals to create new and fantastic creatures that were unique and fun. Imagine riding on the back of a hippogriff, soaring through the air like a bird but galloping like a horse. The Hydra was a terrifying beast that lived in the water, but it was famous for one big reason. It had many heads. And it wasn't just a few. Some stories said it had 9, and if you cut one head off, 2 more would grow back in its place. Wow, this made it almost impossible to defeat in a regular fight. The Hydra was a symbol of a problem that never seemed to go away, no matter how hard you tried to fix it. This monster was a challenge for even the bravest heroes. The most famous hero to fight a Hydra was Hercules, who had to find a clever trick to stop the heads from growing back. He had his nephew help him by using fire to burn the stumps of the necks right after he cut a head off, which stopped new ones from growing. Let's meet the Manticore. This creature was a mix of a few different animals. It had the body of a lion, the head of a human, and a tail like a scorpion. And it wasn't just a regular tail, was full of sharp, spiky needles that it could shoot at its enemies. People believed manticores loved to play tricks with their human-like voice to lure travelers into the jungle before they attacked. They were often found in scary stories and were a symbol of hidden danger. But the strangest thing about the manticore was its roar. It was said to sound like a trumpet, and it could be heard for miles. They were also said to have 3 rows of sharp, pointy teeth. Have you heard the rhyme about the troll under the bridge? Trolls are big, strong monsters who are usually pretty grumpy. They are known for living in rocky, dark places like caves or mountains, but they are most famous for living under bridges. A troll's skin is often said to be like stone or covered in moss and dirt, helping them blend in with their surroundings. Trolls in stories were often simple-minded and could be tricked with clever words or riddles. While they could be a little scary, their biggest weakness was sunlight. In many tales, if a troll was caught outside when the sun rose, they would turn into a big, rocky statue. This is why they mostly came out at night, to avoid being turned into a garden decoration. They weren't usually interested in money, but they would demand a toll or a riddle to let people pass over their bridge.